Way back in ancient Egypt, cats used to be worshipped as gods. This isn't something that our fur babies have let go of easily, and you might find that your own kitty can throw some pretty major hissy fits if they feel like they aren't getting the respect that they clearly deserve. In this video, we're going to be looking at some of the horrible things that our kitties have to put up with from their hopeless human servants. Honestly, it's enough to make a cat wonder why they bother hanging out with us in the first place. That's it, human. Keep scratching right there. But before we dive in, why not subscribe and join our feline loving community so as to help understand your own little tyrant a little better? Number 1. Those perfect pets. Cats are picky about how often they get pet, as anybody who's ever interacted with one can attest. You'll soon hear about it if you're not petting your kitty enough. They demand signs of your respect and allegiance in the form of ear scratches and back massages. What's the point of keeping humans around if your ears are still going to be itchy after all? Your cat might choose to let you know when you're failing in your duty here by rubbing up against you, jumping on you, or if subtlety doesn't seem to be getting through to you, just by plain old-fashioned screaming. But this doesn't mean that you can get away with just petting your cat all the time. Life could never be so simple. As befits such noble and sacred creatures, our fur babies are also fiercely protective of their bodily autonomy and won't stand for being touched when they don't want to be. The trick is to get the right balance between petting too much and petting too little. Anything outside that, and you're likely to be dealing with one unhappy cat. Number 2. Dinner time. Where's my dinner? Cats don't like to be kept waiting at the best of times, and for our fur babies, dinner time is never the best of times. Although you're unlikely to ever see them wearing anything as unfashionable as a watch, it would clash with their fancy fur coat. You've probably noticed that they're surprisingly good at telling the time without one. Cats have an excellent internal clock and won't permit any slacking from their human servants. They quickly memorize our routines and will often make their annoyance known if they notice that we're not being perfectly punctual. Number 3. Beauty sleep. Looking as amazing as your fur baby does doesn't just happen overnight. It takes most of the day as well. Cats need up to 18 hours of beauty sleep to keep themselves looking and feeling fresh as a daisy. Fortunately, your furry friend doesn't have to do their sleeping all in one block like you do. That would make them a pretty uninteresting pet. Instead, they take multiple naps throughout the day and night. But just because they sleep lightly doesn't mean that their sleep isn't important. Cats don't like to be woken up when they're halfway through a cat nap, especially by somebody as unimportant as their human servant. So what if the place where they fell asleep happens to be your lap, and you happen to have to get up and go to work at some point? That really sounds like a you problem, human. You should really be happy to remain trapped on the couch for as long as your kitty needs you to act as their bed. Number 4. Love is an open door. Cats are fantastic creatures with a multitude of talents, but if there's one area where even they will admit that their powers fall slightly short, it is in their ability to open doors. A small number of lucky and very talented felines might, much like the raptors in Jurassic Park, learn how to open door handles with their paws. But very few kitties have learned to master the mysteries of the doorknob. Closing a door in your home, therefore, is for your kitty essentially the same as building up a wall across part of their territory. Worse, in fact. They could clamber over a wall easily enough. As such, even if your cat doesn't actually want to enter a specific room, once the door to it has been closed, you might notice that they become very keen on having it opened again, and very loud about letting you know that this is what they want. Number 5. Computer. What is a laptop really? You might have heard some silly human stories about computers being kind of like mechanical brains, designed to perform calculations, record and process information, and allow us to communicate with each other. This is, of course, utter nonsense. To your kitty, the answer is clear. Your laptop keyboard is warm once it's been left on for a few minutes, and it's a flat surface. Obviously, it's a cat bed. Strangely, this has never been as obvious to the humans who own the laptops, which is why we spend so much time pushing our kitties off of our keyboards or trying to train them not to jump on them in the first place. If only we accepted the will of our feline overlords and just allowed them to sleep on our computers to their heart's content. True, we'd never get any work done, but at least our fur babies would get some proper rest. Number 6. Sharing is caring. Your cat has their cat food, fed to them at meal times, possibly quite expensive food, depending on the brand. They also probably get treats, either for being a good cat, or just because. Maybe they even have regular snacks on top of that. So why, every time you settle down to try and scarf down your meager meal in the few minutes off time your feline masters allow, does your kitty insist on acting like they've never been fed? Well, because your kitty isn't a sucker. Cats may like their own food, but that doesn't mean that they don't notice how much we enjoy ours. So what if their food is perfectly designed to meet their specific nutritional needs, while ours is made up of ingredients that have little to no health value for them, won't really taste good to them, and in a lot of cases are actually toxic to cats? They can see that we're having fun eating it, and so they demand to know what secrets we're trying to keep from them. Number 7. Failing the smell test. Ah, hello human. Don't bother wondering where I got this tiny cat-sized glass of wine or this swivel chair. Focus on finding me waiting up for you in a darkened room. Where have you been? As if I didn't know. Okay, we'll drop the theatrics. You're unlikely to find your cat confronting you about sneaking around behind their back in such a melodramatic way. They're much too dignified for that. But this doesn't mean that your cat doesn't know when you've been seeing other kitties on the side. You thought you were safe petting that other cat on the way home from work just because your own fur baby wasn't around to see you? You didn't see anything wrong with giving them a quick scratch behind the ears while they rub their head against your ankles? Whoops! That head rub was actually the other cat scent marking you, pressing their face against your legs in order to compress special glands in their cheeks and release a pheromone scent. This scent then lets any other cat in the area know that this other cat met you and wanted to use you as a living signpost to share their business with the neighborhood. Unfortunately, this means that your kitty can smell when you have somebody else's scent on you after you come home, and know when you've been fur-raternizing with other cats. Better hope they're feeling forgiving, although they'll probably still need to spend some time scent marking you themselves, and they might demand some apology pets. Now that you've learned some of the ways in which you've so shamefully been falling short in your service to your cat, and how could you? You probably want to learn some ways that you can make it up to them. Well, the good news is, your fur baby has many ways in which they try to communicate what they want from you. The bad news is, humans aren't always very good at understanding. Check out this video to learn 6 ways that you've been misunderstanding your moggy.